Season 5 of The Score, the Team Roping Journal's podcast, where we cover the roping industry from top to bottom. This is where the team roping world talks. We talk through tough subjects, we talk big wins, and we talk real issues affecting the community. I'm your host and editor of the Team Roping Journal, Chelsea Schaefer. Hey everyone, it's Chelsea Schaefer. Welcome to The Score. Today we have newly inducted Hall of Famer Bobby Harris on the episode, and it's particularly relevant because he's also the producer of the Badlands Bits and Spurs Team Roping Futurity and Derby in Rapid City, South Dakota, August 24th and 25th. Last year we jumped on board and covered this awesome event right away in their first year, and we're a little ahead of things this year, and we want to tell you all about it. So at the end of the episode, Bobby is going to talk about the Futurity and about his strategy behind this 4-year-old only event. I say 4-year-old only. The Futurity's 4-year-olds only, and then they've got the Derby for 5- and 6-year-olds. So this event has a $1,000 entry fee per division, 75% payback with a $250 late fee. Your entry deadline is coming up on August 5th, and you can email those entries by August 12th. So that's a mail-in entry deadline of August 5th, email deadline of August 12th. It's in Rapid City, South Dakota, the Badlands Bits and Spurs Futurity. Okay. Now, I really am excited because Bobby and I talk about way more than just that in this episode. We talk about his history in Wyoming, how he grew up rodeoing, how he started out. If you missed his Hall of Fame speech, that's on Team Roping Journal's Facebook page. You can head over there and check that out. We kind of expand upon some of the things he touched on in that speech. And I really think you are going to enjoy this episode with the world champion, NFR champion, 18-time NFR qualifier, Bobby Harris. And I'm going to tell you more about our episode sponsors, Synergy and Weaver Leather, at our commercial break. So stick around.
Hello.
Hey, Bobby, it's Chelsea. How are ya?
Good morning.
Good morning. What are you up to?
Oh, we had some people out and roped early this morning, and now I'm going to go and we're doing a water pod project, putting in for some cattle, so we're getting ready to leave with the guys here right after I get done talking to you.
Well, thank you for making time for me. I appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Shoot yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on an amazing weekend. How do you feel?
That was fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, that was fun.
Has it all sunk in? Did it all sink in when you were up there on that stage? Tell me.
You know, yeah, there's just, there's one thing about this whole thing that people think they know, but they don't know how passionate it is to us. Mm-hmm. It means everything to us. It's, it's what we want to do since we were kids, and you put your whole life into it. I mean, there's a lot, you did a lot of things that you put second to be able to do this thing. So it's emotional.
Yeah, it was. It was emotional, I think, for all of us watching you. But
I mean everybody, though. I mean,
yeah,
myself, but everyone has that same feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. When did it hit you? I know, like Trevor said, it didn't really hit him until he was kind of there and people were asking him questions, and it was like, wow, this is a big deal. Like, was it a big deal from the time you got the phone call, or did it take a little while to sink in?
Well, it takes a while to sink in. Yes, it's a big deal from the moment they tell you. It's huge, but it doesn't sink in until you, just like what Trevor said, you get there and you look around at all the people that were in there before you that, they were all my rodeo idols. Mm-hmm. The majority of them, and I'm older than than Trevor by a lot. So, the older generation, the guys in the 60s and 70s were guys that I grew up watching. that were in there that, were just, that was really special.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want you to take me back a little bit to the earliest part of your team roping career. Tell me, I know I was reading an article that Kendra did with you on our website about growing up in northern Wyoming and all of the, how the team roping world was kind of around Texas and California and Arizona as a kid. What was your earliest team roping experience there in Wyoming like? What kind of arena did you have? Where did y'all go rope? How often did you get to rope? Tell me about that, Bobby.
Well, growing up on the ranch, we roped every night. Dad was tripping steers and roping calves and bulldogging, so we roped every day. In the summertime, the hired hands were a bunch of teenage kids usually, and usually a family was working for us, so they'd rope. But, no matter what we did all day for the work, every evening, everybody roped, hired hands, everybody. So that was just a family thing we did. So and the same thing in Kendra's speaking in that, in our time, there was no computers, there was no phones, there were no video games. So you were outside. So I roped the dummy constantly. I mean, I was roping a head and dummy all the time, and a head and dummy because Dad tripped steers. So, that's just a way of life. Your dad did it, we did it. And then the one thing that was different, though, when we were younger was when fall started, we turned our horses out. You played basketball, you played, baseball, football. I mean, we played the sports until spring, and then we got our horses back in. So, I mean, that was a big difference now where everyone does it 365. We when school started, we kicked our horses out. Yeah. So, but it just, I just love roping. I just loved it. It's a passion. And that's something that you have to have. It's just like Trevor. I remember Trevor when he was a little boy, being around the steer ropings and stuff. And he was always riding around and chasing steers out. So it's a passion, What he did just is not about, okay, I'm going to decide to do this. This started when he was little, know. And same way with me. So when I made the speech about getting my card when I was 15, and people were kind of like, well, why so early? Well, I was ready to get my card. I was ready to challenge myself. And I meant that no means was I going to go make a living yet, but I was ready to start getting ready to be a professional cowboy.
Well, I want to go into when you bought your card and all that, but what kind of horses were you on there at the family ranch in Wyoming? What were they like? Bill Spratt kind of horses? Like, who was raising horses that you were riding at the time?
Well, you just buy them wherever. We bought one horse called Tar Baby from Terry McGinley. That was one of my first horses as a kid. Another horse called Laco, which would be just Laco from Marvin Cantrell, that I was very successful on. There was no specific breed. My folks weren't raising any horses, so you would just buy whatever horse that you needed and go from there. Those were my two horses. And George was a horse my mom run barrels and my dad roped calves on that I breakawayed and headed on when I was 5 and 6 years old.
And what was the horse that you were riding then when you went ahead and got your card? What kind of horse did you have at that time?
That would have been that Tar Baby. That would have been, he was just a little black quarter horse. I couldn't tell you the breeding on him. Either one of them I couldn't tell you because, it didn't mean anything to me. I was ready to ride anything. So, but that was the horse that I had. And then the first year I made the finals, it was a calf horse that I had bought in high school that I was roping calves on and turned him into a heel horse. I bought him from Kurt Kinghorn, and then I went to heeling on him. And he was a thinner, higher-headed horse, but he really fit me at that time, and I won a lot on him. That I used for a long time, and then I bought my roan horse that I called Roni in 84. That was my best horse that fit me through my whole career.
Gotcha. And that was, tell me how different were the heel horses working at that time, Bobby? In the 80s and 90s, how different of position did you ride? How different did you require your horses to work than now?
Well, here's the whole thing that people need to, they need to start understanding is this: who the greatest is, who the greatest blah 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 is all a bunch of baloney. Because everybody at their time was doing the best they could with what there was. And I'll just use this the horses of the 70s, when I started, late 70s and 80s in the rodeo, were really, really good horses because the steers were big, the scores were long. You had to have a really solid horse because you didn't rope as fast because those steers didn't handle as fast. And it was a different time. It was more about catching than it was how fast you could throw. So that's why the position, you didn't ride near as high. You didn't go by the steer like they do nowadays. You didn't get a straight, because if you roped a leg at any time, you didn't win anything. You know, I mean, it was about catching. So you had to, like I always like to say, we were more of a defensive roper than an offensive. Like today, they're very offensive ropers. You know, where we were defensive ropers, making sure that we caught. And then, like I said, Leo was huge in the timing and catching, but our generation was huge in speeding it up and roping faster. Yep. And, catching bigger cattle. You take our generation from when I started in 81, there was, Walt, to 82 was T and Leo, and 83 was, trying to think of who won the world in 83.
I don't have my list in front of me.
Maybe Al Bach.
Maybe. Maybe I don't have the list. When did Jake...
I think maybe, I'll have to think about that in 83. I didn't go to the finals in 83. It's the only time I didn't go in a long time. Oh, Leo won it in 83.
I gotcha. Okay.
And then Mike and Dee, and then Jake and Clay started their string. Yeah. So, Al Bach, myself, through that time right there wasn't a lot of different people that won the world. So that's when it started to change to be a little bit faster. Steers were still big. But that's why I say at our time, that's why, if you take those same guys at our time and you put them right now, we would adjust and learn how to rope. However they're roping now,
Yeah. When you were trying to speed up the roping and speed up your own roping, was there something, because, so many people who listen to this podcast and read the Team Roping Journal are lower number people who are trying to get faster. Was there something that when you were trying to speed things up that you struggled with and that you really found was like a secret or something you had to focus on?
Shut the door. Well, I grew up here in the north, where we roped in little bitty barns, so I could throw fast. Throwing fast was not the problem. Catching 2 feet consistently was the problem. So you had to learn to slow down to let things come together. You may go one more jump to catch that steer, and that's what you have to learn. That's what you had to learn, and you still have to learn that to this day. Yeah. It's not about just going fast. You still got to learn how to rope a walker, a dragger, all sorts of different steers. Everybody can catch a steer that hops. And it was the same way back then. But if this steer hits and walks, that's the difference between winning and losing. So we really had to learn how to rope those types of steers, bigger steers, because you would see that more often. Or today, these steers, they may not hop, but they're still in the air because they're lighter. So that was the biggest thing you had to learn. We could throw fast, but you had to learn to catch 2 feet, because Leo, Danny Watkins, Walt, Al, when I first came in, and then Clay and I come in at the same time, and then Clay, he caught everything, so that's where you had to learn to catch more, because they forced you to learn how to be consistent.
Yeah, certainly one of those iron sharpens iron situations.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. What was, people always love to talk rodeo stories and rodeo travel stories. Did you and T travel together a lot while you guys were rodeoing?
Oh, yeah, we traveled a lot. From 86, we started roping at 85 at the finals. Mm-hmm. And from 86 through, I moved home in 89, and we quit roping there for 1 year and then started up again. But we went everywhere together. I mean, we traveled. If it was close, we may take 2 outfits, but we traveled together everywhere. And there was no living quarters. You got in your pickup and a stock trailer, and you went and traveled. And you'd be gone for a month. Mm-hmm. You'd fly places. So we spent a lot of time together,
Mm-hmm. Who was the better driver? Who would drive longer? Did you guys share pretty good?
No, we shared really good. The thing you'll run into is, I drive a lot. Mm-hmm. Because I had to, from living up here traveling. So I drive a lot. But what you run into about the driving part is you have to trust that guy when you're sleeping. Okay? Uh-huh. So if you don't trust that guy, you don't sleep very well. And I trust T as much as I trust myself. So it was that's what was nice. I mean, we would drive, and then it's whatever time you got tired, you try to drive 3, 4, 5 hours, and then the next guy'd drive the same. And we'd cover a lot of country. We'd leave Phoenix in Arizona in the evening when we were done, and get home the next day, mm-hmm. driving straight through. So.
When did you decide, and I've been working pretty much in the same job for 12 years now. So my historical knowledge isn't 20, 30 years back like Kendra's is, because she's so brilliant. When did
she's so old.
No, I would never tell Kendra that she's so old. Kendra, I'm sorry. Bobby said that. I did not.
Yeah.
If she happens to listen to this. Now, so. It's funny because Colby and Russell and all those guys, we grew up together essentially doing this, and we always think how old we are because we certainly don't feel like we used to. So I get it a little bit. But anyway, I was going to ask, what was the deciding factor with you on slowing down from rodeoing? Was it family? Was it ability? Tell me what made you decide to slow down?
Well, this cycle, and everyone goes through it. It's the very same for everybody. They may speak differently about it, but it's really the same. When you're 18, 19 and you take off, mm-hmm. you don't care what they do. You don't care if they rope goats. You don't care if they rope whatever. You're going because mm-hmm. you want to be there. Then you learn the ropes. You learn how to rodeo. And I've always felt this way. You learn where you're at in the pecking order. Mm-hmm. So just like myself, when I started out, I was tickled to make the finals. I was just tickled to be a top 15 guy and make the national finals rodeo for first 3 times I made it. Because that's just, you're still, no matter what they say, you're still learning. Mm-hmm. You're still trying to figure this deal out. You're trying to get the right partner. So then I started getting better partners, and I became, as I was roping, I was like, well, I'm the top 10 now. Then you find, I roped with Doyle. I had great partners. You look through, but you're looking for that combination. Mm-hmm. So I roped with Doyle in 85, and heck, he was right there with Jake and Clay all year long, but just didn't want to rodeo. I mean, we had a great year. So in 85, I started roping with T at the finals, which to me was my opportunity. This was my time, because I always felt that T was the best header in the world, because I'd watched him in 80 and 82, and I just watched him, and he just had that it thing, Mm-hmm. And Jake also, and D, but they just, there's just a handful of them guys that you want to rope with that that make you better. So when I got to rope with T, in 85, we both were going to start tripping steers. He had already tripped steers. I grew up tripping steers, so that was just a easy thing for me to do. We just clicked. We had that factor. So, then you're one of the top guys. At that time, I knew I was one of the top 3 guys. I felt like I was one of the top 3 guys in the world. And in 86, I missed the steer for Clay for T to have a chance to win the world at the finals. I missed the last steer. In fact, that's still the steer that haunts me today.
Really?
Oh, yeah. 87, we placed in 9 out of 10 rounds. We split the average. And basically, we had the world in control. And Jake and Clay come back and win 5 rounds and move up in the average and beat us. So 88, we didn't really contend. Then 89, I went home to Wyoming, and then we started up in 90 again at the finals and won the finals, and then won the world. So, I mean, it's just your time. And then after that, I know I was still good, but it just changed for me. I really probably could have been done rodeoing in the next 2 years, just because, I'd done what I wanted to do, but this is what I did for a living and kept doing it and had some good years. But, that time from 85 at the finals, or, 85 in the spring of the year of Doyle till 92, 93, that was my best years of rodeoing.
And then the last year you made the finals, is that the year you won the average with JD, or did you make it after that?
No, I made it in 02 with JD. And that was a highlight. JD and I being lifetime friends and roping together and winning the average together, I mean, that means a lot, But then I made him again in 10. I wanted to go one more time with Britt. We come in the top five in the world. And just... Britt didn't have a good finals, then things happen. You get there and, things just don't work, and that's it. And I always tell everybody, everything gets put in place. My mother had passed away September 28th, the year we made the finals in 10. So when I get to the finals, whether I win or not, I'm just thankful to be there. And yes, you want to win, and no, it was no fun not winning, but you get things put into perspective when you lose someone like that, and then it's all right. That's the way things go. And the funny thing is we were right behind Trevor and Patrick that year at the finals. So they're just smoking every steer they run, and we can't get anything going. So it's just one of them things.
Well, and I had forgotten about that you made it in 2010. I mean, that's essentially the modern era of team roping. Like the difference between the finals in 2010, after they've already been 3-3 the year before, versus in the 80s. I mean, what a gap in generations, but.
Well, something that people need to remember, and this happens in everything, I always get the biggest kick out of these guys talking about the best basketball player. Well, of course I think Michael Jordan's the best basketball player, but it's who I watched. What about Bill Russell? I think he only won 11 championships, and he was the greatest at his time. And if they want to say LeBron is at this time, that's fine too. That's why I say this, talking about who the best is in the team roping and everything like that. Everyone's good in their own era. Yeah. And that's just like that. The one thing that anybody can play in each other's era, and that's when I made it in 10. People are like, "You think you'll make it?" And I'm like, yes, I'll make it. There's no doubt in my mind I'll make it, because that's the way I'm wired. Yeah,
that's what's so impressive. I mean, to make it in your, what they would say, original era, and then, 30 years later, it still be, your skills still apply. That's impressive.
Oh, yeah, and I made the finals in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010. I made them in 4 decades. Not a lot of people have done that.
No.
Made them the first year I made them. I was 18 years old. The last time I made them, I was 47.
That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, and that's why when people say, we may not go anymore, but I can still row. Trevor can still rope, whoever. I mean, Walt's out there trying to make the finals now. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. He sure is.
There's not, that's fabulous. Al Bach can still rope. Clay can still rope. T can still rope. I mean, our era can still rope. It's just back to that question. I guess I kind of got drawn away from it. Is your priorities change. So that's why I said when 92, 93, 94, right in there, I was probably done. Because now you have a family. You don't live by the seat of your pants anymore. Certain things mean something to you more, making sure, when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you don't care if you're sleeping in the back of the pickup or underneath a tree. You don't care. But now you have a family, you want to take care of them. So now the pressure changes on you to perform and to win and everything. And that's what changes when you go. I mean, not that you still can't perform. It's just that your life changes as you grow older.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I think even in my 30s, I think I get that. That's for sure.
Well, yeah. Look at your life. I mean, when you were 20,
totally different. Totally.
You have children, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I have one. I begged her not to come into my office right now. I've bribed her.
And how old is she?
She's 5.
Yeah. So go back just 10 years.
Yep.
You didn't even have child. And to 5 now, and it's like everything is around them now.
Yep.
So that's what changes a lot.
Yes, I had to bribe the child with the YouTube to let me record this podcast.
There you go. We learned to do that.
Train with Smarty, ride with Synergy. Known for well-built gear that supports you and your equine athlete, Synergy by Weaver's premium materials and American craftsmanship work together in synergy with the latest technology for performance you can trust. With over 45 years of experience, Weaver Leather's rich heritage of fine craftsmanship pairs with Alan Bach's lifetime of first-hand experience to deliver hardworking tack you can depend on both in and out of the arena. Synergy by Weaver is backed by a no-risk 90-day test ride guarantee. Their team is confident in every product they make. If the product does not meet your expectations for any reason, simply return the item to the place of purchase within 90 days for a full refund. For more information, visit ridethebrand.com. Well, Bobby, tell me about the kind of horses that you are riding now on the ranch, and then the kind of horses that you hope are involved in the futurity process. And then, of course, we're definitely going to talk about your futurity. So tell me about.
Well, yeah, I will say that in my career, I rode a lot of Leo bred horses that were good. The biggest thing that happens in rodeo and driftwood, my mother raised driftwoods later on, but she sold them as weanlings, so we never rode them. What happens is you really don't look at the breeding, you look at what can you win on. And I still believe that's true to this day. I believe that's a huge thing you need to remember. But now the breeding is so well and so good because everyone did that. Everyone now is raising good horses, whether it be a metallic cat, whether it's a highbrow cat, whether it's a Sunfrost, whether it's a Frenchman's Guy, whatever it is, those horses have been bred to good mares. And so the selection is of better horses, I believe. Now, there's still the old-time horses, which I believe, the Driftwoods, the Hancocks, the Leos, that are good horses. They just take a little longer. Everyone now wants I don't know why I lost it. But,
me neither. That's okay.
That's the difference. you didn't take a horse to the finals unless he was 17, 18 years old usually. And it still happens. I mean, you still want a seasoned horse, but these horses now can perform at such a young age because of their breeding. That's one big thing that's changed. Being in the north, you're still always looking at the same things everybody else is, and that's the other thing. To go from Gillette, Wyoming to Fort Worth, Texas takes 17 hours, and that's nothing anymore. People do that all the time. To where back in the day, you just didn't take off driving like that. You're like, man, that's a long ways to go. Where now, that's nothing.
Yeah.
So your ability to find horses is way different now. Plus the internet, you may find a horse in Florida and can have him here in 3 days. So that's what's changed tremendously.
And you told me you have a good young one that you're not going to show at your Futurity, but you might show it somewhere else. What are you riding right now that you're excited about?
Well, this colt, his dad, and I don't have the name of him right now, but his dad won $500,000 in the Rainy. And he's a real nice young 4-year-old. We got a couple 3-year-olds for next year that are cat itchy bred horses. Got a little bit of some highbrow cat in there, one-time Pepto. That I go cowboy on them. I get them outside, and then we rope on them. We go outside. And I'm not going to show him because it's my Futurity, and I don't think that's right to show in your own Futurity, which I think is going to be one of the better Futurities, and I don't even get to show in it. But, I'm always looking for anything. My connection to a lot of horses is J.D. Gerard, my partner in the Futurity. He finds a lot of horses. John Phillip, J.D. Yates. I'll ask them what they have, what they're looking at. Trevor, raising his horses. He's always got nice horses. I was still kind of under the influence of whatever it's good. I didn't really care how he was bred. If he worked good, I like that horse. If he didn't work good, then it didn't matter to me. I don't care how well bred he is.
Yeah.
What the breeding was anyways. So, so we have a colt that we had a stud that was a 3 bars on the top side and orphan drift on the bottom that a friend gave me 20 years ago, and he just passed away last year. Well, we headed, heeled, tripped, rope calves, goat tied, and cow horsed on him, all in high school, and he made it in each one of those events. As a 4-year-old, I rode him at Houston, the Dodge Circuit Finals. We tripped on him at Cheyenne. I heeled on him, like I said, at Houston and all those rodeos, and he just passed away. And I've got his last colt that is out of a Tennessee bred mare that was a half sister to my daughter's cow horse she won Reserve World Champion on. So we've got him. He's just coming too, and he's a real big, stout-looking colt that I left a stud colt to see what he is. But we'll ranch on him, and there's a place for that horse, if he works. If not, then we'll gild him. But, we're really excited about him to do something in the future. I just talked to Ty Cowan this morning about he called to congratulate me on the Hall of Fame, and we was talking about some of his horses, and he lives in Highmore where I live in the winter, and we're going to get together this fall and probably go pick up one of his, whether, whatever he's got down there, I was trying to think of what that stud they have right now that they've got.
Is it the PC Tully Frost horse?
Yeah, that's one of them. But the other one they're breeding to, the barrel horse, the older gray horse.
Oh,
gray stud.
It's not Epic Leader. It's... I know who you mean. I can't think of the name just right now because we're talking about it. But I know his daughter real well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Driftwood. I always like the Driftwood horse. They take a little longer. And I'll tell you something, and this is crazy. My mom raised Driftwood and Hancocks. And like I said, we never rode them because she sold them as babies. But I just had one I sold last week that I bought that on the bottom side of the stud's gone and the mare's gone. This colt was out of. But on the bottom side of the mare, Doc Bar was on 2 generations back. I mean, so he was really old old
school
breeding. And then on the top side, he was Hancock. And just a really nice horse, which people would be like, oh, Hancock, he's going to buck you off, whatever. Well, no, not all of them did. There was a lot of them that were really good horses, you know. And so same thing like that, you know. I just kind of pick horses up, you know, whatever I think's working and that will fit what I want to do. They have to be multi-purpose for me. From the ranch.
Yeah.
I need to be able to head on them, heel on them, go cowboy on them. You know, so their conformation is really, really important with them.
What parts of the conformation do you like? What's your preference?
You know, Old and Young told me when I was a young man at a calf roping school, which people would go, who's Old and Young, but probably one of the finest horsemen and ropers there was. He's still alive, but he said if you don't have a place for that saddle to sit, then he's not going to last. And that's one thing that I've seen that is very true. There's a lot of horses that are very athletic and they work, but their conformation is not as good as it needs to be, and pretty soon they get sore. And it's because of the conformation. So I really try to make sure they got good shoulders and withers that tie in. You know, and their hocks are up underneath of them, you know, so that when they take a jerk or they're used, their body can withstand it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about why it was, and we've talked about this in the written article, but I don't think we've ever talked about it on a podcast. Tell me about your 4-year-old Futurity and why a 4-year-old Futurity is so important to you in South Dakota in this time of year at the end of August.
Well, the reason we do it in the end of August is because now they're older. You know, they're coming into their 5-year-old year, so they've had the time to get trained slowly. And like I said a minute ago, you know, these horses are so athletic now that they can do so many things when they're young. But we still need to let their minds and their bodies catch up to them so you have a longevity with them. So when we talked about having this Futurity, we felt, and the one thing that people need to really understand about all this Futurity stuff is there's no right or wrong for anybody to say what they want to do. Just like Jay's having his, and he has, I believe, a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old all together or younger. But you can ride a 6-year-old, which is fine. That's wonderful. With maybe he'll have a 4-year-old incentive. Well, that's fine. We just felt that we wanted to try to start tying in with the cow horse, the cutting, and take those young horses, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the cow horse and the cuttings when they're 3, isn't that correct?
I think so, yeah.
So now you can take that horse from being broke there, and he has now another Futurity you can get him ready for in a 4-year-old Futurity and compete against his own 4-year-olds, and then still go to Jay's. I mean, you can still go to both, but then still go to a 5 and a 6-year-old. We also have a maturity with ours, a 5 and 6-year-old maturity. So you could show them for 3 years in that. So now you're building these horses. So they've gone from a 3-year-old in the cutting and cow horse. They go to the 4-year-old Futurity team roping. Then you can still go to the 5 and 6-year-old maturities, or Futurity, whatever they want to call it. And then by then you have a finished horse for the jackpotters to go on with the rest of their life.
Yeah.
It just makes sense to us that you do that. So when we did this, and I just spoke to Trevor at the Hall of Fame, we were visiting because he's big into it. We were thinking, or what I was telling him, I really would like to see a huge, and we may do it with ours as we grow. You know, we need to have a Futurity for a 4-year-old that pays $100,000 for the header, pays $100,000 for the 4-year-old healer. You know, a stepping stone deal. So that you can take that 3-year-old and have him ready to go, and you're shining. He's showing when he's 4. And the people that own him, I mean, whether he's a stud, a mare, gelding, or whatever, you're like, now you get more people interested in that same product to go on And they are, don't get me wrong. I know they are. People are doing that. But now we're breeding these horses specifically for the team roping futurity. It doesn't have to be the cow horse and the cutting.
Mm-hmm.
You can start raising your horses specifically for the roping futurity.
Yeah. But you guys have chosen not to do a stallion incentive with yours. Is that correct? It's open. Your futurity is open to anybody, whether they are enrolled in any sort of rope horse incentive program or not. Correct?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we're doing that is simply I want anybody and everybody to feel that they don't have to pay into an incentive to be eligible to come to this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said, you can correct me, which would be fine. You don't have to be in an incentive to go to the cow horse futurity, do you?
I don't think so. I think I don't believe so.
Or the cutting.
Mm-mm.
Now, these people can create their own incentives.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. They can say, well, if you own our stud and we do this, we're going to give you a $2,500 bonus if you win this, and he's bred by this stud.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need them to pay me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this. We are doing this. Our families, JD and I's families, we're doing this because we want to showcase a 4-year-old horse.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number one reason. We want someone, and we also have an intermediate, a side pot, which is 100% payback, that if I don't care if he's in Wisconsin, New York, California, and he raises a nice 4-year-old and he trains him, he has a place he can go show this horse in a couple divisions without having to pay into an incentive to do it.
Sure.
We feel that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, there's more money. I understand why they're doing it. That's fine. We just chose not to do that.
Sure, of course. And then I know we've talked about your cattle, too. You're going to be very specific about what kind of cattle these guys get to rope. Is that correct?
Absolutely. There's a jackpot. Coy Thompson, we use Coy steers.
Mm-hmm.
They have a jackpot on Tuesday that we will start sifting through them a little bit. Last year we didn't have to do much of a sift. There was a couple we took off. We took off the soft end and took off the strong end. We want good, strong cattle. But when we get to the maturity, I talk to these guys and I ask them, we look at the situation and I said, this is where we're setting it. This is why we think it's good. But if I need to adjust the barrier by the time the 4-year-old futurity comes along, I've got to see these cattle at the jackpot, the maturity heading and the maturity heeling before we start. And we should have a real good cull on our steers by the time our futurity starts. So we set the barriers according. And here's another thing that we do. We usually start with our heeling first. So we've got one more run on the steers before we got the 4-year-old head horses have to go.
Oh, okay. Tell me. That makes sense. Yeah, but
that's why we do the heeling first.
Mm-hmm.
So that we've got one more run on the cattle to see where they're at before we do the head horse. So we know that the setups, we want this to be in favor of the horses so they can show themselves the best. We don't want them to be to where it's going to blow them up. I mean, we want it to where they have to try and has to be good. So that's why we're so picky about that situation.
Well, I love it. That is awesome. And then, you said you're going to set the barriers accordingly. Remind me, is it a rope barrier or an electric eye?
Electric eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We do the electric eye simply because it's easier. We can run it faster.
Sure, yeah.
A rope barrier is plumb fine. We just choose not to do that. The other thing that we do in our futurity is our average is based on judges' scores. It has nothing to do with time. And people ask about that. And the reason is I don't want these horses to have to be stressed out. I mean, they have to go work because our judges are team ropers. They're not AQH judges. They're not horse show. They're team ropers. And we want these horses to work like team roping horses. But the simple thing to explain that is if you have a horse that walks in the box, turns around, gets in the corner, and scores, runs and rates, handles the steer and faces, you have a chance to win something in our futurity. if your horse has some quirks, if he's going to kick his butt out of the corner, if he's going to rear a little bit, anything, you're going to be docked. And it's that simple. It's not about, this deal is not about the roper. It's about the horse. So that's why I take the time out. Now, we use the time for the go around. And that doesn't mean that if your horse works good, you can't win the rounds, because it is on time for the go arounds. But if your horse happened to blow up a little bit on you, and being a 4-year-old, that may happen, it still gives you a chance to win something.
Yeah, and that, and I think that is what I heard from everybody last year that went. They were very pleased with the way it all went, and that seems like it was positive feedback pretty much across the board. Is there anything you learned last year that you're going to do differently this year, or staying the course?
We're staying the course, because we talked about that. We talked about, do we want to make some changes? And we're like, we thought things went very well. So why, I think that's something that happens in this world is, if it's good, why do we have to mess it up?
Yeah.
We always think we got to tweak something. You don't have to. I mean, and it was good. And it's very simple. We don't have specific points, except if you break the barrier, it's 5 points. If you rope a leg, it's 3 points. Those are the only things that are specific. But beyond that, in our judges, there's no only a certain amount of points taken away at each one of the categories. It's up to the judge. So that's what makes it so good. I've always felt that. And we bring these judges in here, and we want them to judge it accordingly to what they see, what they like, and what we've talked about. Not get into a roping match, and I think that happens a lot. Pretty soon, sometimes they get to watching these guys rope, and they forget about the horse.
Yeah.
We try to stay away from that. If your horse makes a mistake, whether you catch or not, if he makes a mistake, we want that horse to be rewarded for doing good, or penalized for doing wrong.
And what do you have last year? How many teams did you get, or how many horses did you get on each side? Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember. I think we got right at 30 heelers and maybe just a few less headers. We had some people come from Canada that did well. People from Texas, Trevor and John Phillip, and Dakota Kirkenschlager, Brad Lund, JD Yates. We had a good, for our first year, we were very pleased, because, I knew how to put it on, knew what we wanted to do. It's just, you learn, you see, and what we did was good. We were real pleased with how things went.
And I think this year we're a little further ahead on promoting it and letting people know about it, or at least,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it'll be great. And
I really want people to understand something about this, is just like Matt Zancanella with the Royal Crown and Jay doing his, that's all awesome. That is all awesome. And everyone, you can do what they want to. It's their own deal. That's what I like about it. That's why I think would be really nice. You can still have the maturities, just like at I believe the Futurity, maybe they don't. But don't they have several different other things going on also?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be the same thing with ours. Have one big one, have everybody have their deals and whatever. But wouldn't it be nice to have a big fraternity championship where it paid $100,000?
Yeah.
Each year, And the only reason I say a 4-year-old is because that we're in line with the other fraternities. We're the next step for a cut horse, cow horse would be team roping. So to me, it lines up well, to showcase a 4-year-old, because then you can still showcase them as a 5 and 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like there's just, one thing that I am excited for with the futurity industry is that it doesn't really seem like anybody is going on top of anybody yet, or it doesn't seem like anything's mutually exclusive. Like if you do one, you can't do the other. They all seem to be timed out pretty nicely, and people are making them all work up to this point.
Well, and I'll tell you something. If we start doing that, if we start planning over the top of each other, then we're fools.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And they all can hear that from me. We're fools if we do that, because we need to grow this industry. We don't need to make it decline because we want to step on each other or something, because that has nothing to do with any of this. So they shouldn't be, and we don't. We don't. We look at this. We are putting ours on because Central State Fair came to us and wanted us to do our futurity there. So we're tying it in with the rodeo, the jackpot, and everything. That's why we have it in the middle of the week this week, because they moved the rodeo forward, and we wanted to stay in tow with the rodeo, the jackpot, so when people come, they can do more than one thing.
Yeah. Because that's a great end of the year, like for the people in your circuit too, like both the Mountain States and the Badlands circuit. That's an important place for them to come that time of the year. It's like one of your last chances. So who knows? Maybe those guys will be throwing younger horses in the trailer too to come play.
And that's why it's there. While you're there, you can do more than one thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing, these guys rodeo nowadays, they need to learn to do that. So you have a chance to make money in everything you do. You can kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like so many have chosen either the horse show route or the rodeo route, and this, especially with the timing, is an opportunity to possibly give both a try. It seems like there are some guys I know, like even Levi O'Keefe, that runs the Royal Crown with Matt Zancanella. He's got young horses, futurity horses, and he's out there circuit rodeoing. So hopefully there become more people like him that are
absolutely, and that's the big thing about it. I've always said has nothing to do with AQHA or whatever. It's just that we are taking the team roping industry and we're making, which I believe the AQHA needed to make some changes on how you work your horses and how you show your horses also, because the team roping world is so big now. There's so much money in it. They can go and win, like at the World Series finals, $200,000 in a day. Yeah. So I mean, that's why if we grow good young horses, these people buy them when you're done futurity them at 6 years or maturity at 6 years old. My goodness. They can buy this horse and say, well, look, they've won $150,000 on this horse through his futurity and maturity years. So apparently he should be worth $150,000 or $200,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I think about things.
Yeah. It is hopeful that continues. I mean, it looks like it's all moving in the right direction as far as that
very
goes.
Much so. Very much so.
Yeah, absolutely.
With you guys, I mean, it's just huge how much publicity everything's getting now. And just like with ours, we are tickled to put this on.
Yeah.
It's for the horses. It's for the trainers. It's for the owners. There is no... it's for everyone to do good. Now, the bottom line with ours is, it is what it is, and it's going to be run that way. And like I said before, our judges have the final say. I don't have the final say. They have the final say on reruns because it's in their hands. I believe they should make the call, not me. And people like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sir, I will let you get to are you hauling water? What did you tell me you're doing today?
We're getting ready to put some pipe in the ground. Okay,
gotcha. Well, I will let you carry on with your ranching activities for the day. But I so appreciate it, Bobby. Thank you so much, and congratulations again. It was just so awesome to see you this weekend.
Thank you. We loved it. We had a great time and very honored and very humbled, and now we're ready to get on with life.
Yep, on to the futurity.
I'm going to be a Hall of Famer putting in water.
The glamorous life of a professional rodeo cowboy.
Yeah, I hope that trencher I'm riding knows I'm a Hall of Famer, but I don't think he cares.
So. I don't think so either. Well, thanks,
thank
Bobby.
you.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for sticking around listening to today's episode. Remember, it was brought to you by Smarty and Weaver Leather and their Synergy line of tack. If you want to learn more about these products, check out ridethebrand.com.